After 14 miserable years of the worst Tory government in modern times, the best this Prime Minister could offer the British people is that things can only get worse. He rolled out a budget so catastrophic it's left pensioners struggling, children neglected, and working women completely sidelined. The same man who cried foul over the previous government's tax hikes has turned around and done even worse, ramping up taxes with extra gusto. It's starting to feel like we're about to suffer another Tory government because, at this rate, Starmer is practically handing them the keys back. Do you see how it looks to some people that there's one rule for you in terms of being able to claim this stuff that other people don't have access to? It's almost impossible to believe that, in just 3 months, the man has managed to tank his approval ratings by a jaw-dropping 36 points, leaving only 33% of the British public with anything positive to say about him. He's down by about 30 points since coming into power. I mean, this guy is quickly becoming one of the most unpopular prime ministers that we've had in a long time. But this isn't just about people grumbling over their morning tea. No, the unrest has seeped straight into his own Labour Party. Senior MPs who once sang his praises are now openly expressing their frustration, and Starmer's leadership crisis is spiraling out of control. As soon as this was introduced, I knew it was a mistake. I've always supported the triple lock that supported the winter fuel allowance, and I couldn't believe a Labour government was doing it. When I go through my constituents, I go on the bus to work. I'm walking through town, people are stopping me, and there are lots of pensioners who are saying, you know, I worked, I've got a little pension that takes me over the edge of pension credit, and I'm losing out, but they're actually in poverty. So I'm worried, I am really worried. You know, things are bad when the internal chaos goes public. And do you know Starmer's grand solution in this situation? Yeah, he simply suspended the people who stood against him. He's gone full authoritarian, booted out long-standing MPs like John McDonnell for daring to criticize his policies. The best this Prime Minister could offer the British people is that things can only get worse. Well, for him and his calamitous opinion ratings, that's probably true. And Labour, the party that prides itself on embracing diverse viewpoints, now has a leader who's allergic to dissent. People are beginning to wonder if Starmer's idea of democracy involves duct taping everyone's mouth shut. Let's go to the UK now, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer's ratings have dropped to their lowest level yet. According to a recent YouGov poll, only a third of people in the UK have a favourable view of him. Joining us now is geopolitics and finance expert Roger Guol. Only 20% of people actually voted for him. And let's talk about the disillusionment, because it's spreading faster than rumors at a village pub. Party members and loyal supporters are downright livid, feeling like Starmer's leadership has veered so far from Labour's values that they barely recognize it anymore. It's not the leadership they signed up for, and trust me, they aren't shy about saying so. He has the opportunity after 14 years of really messed up, incompetent, unlistable Tory conservative rule. Keir Starmer and Labour have the opportunity to be real heroes. They could fix all of the many things that are wrong with this country, and that is why Keir Starmer is on a roll, but not the good kind. His latest brilliant ideas have really ticked off pensioners and families, and for good reason. Let's start with the winter fuel allowance, a benefit that's been keeping the elderly warm since 1997, and this was never in the Labour Party manifesto. It came as an absolute shock, and there's been no actual adequate explanation for the urgency to do it this year. You know, we are the 6th richest economy in the world, and they choose to steal from pensioners. So yeah, we're angry. It's not like pensioners were living in luxury with their $200 to $300 payments, but it did help keep the frostbite at bay during the bone-chilling UK winters. Now, out of nowhere, Starmer's government decided to slash this lifeline, leaving many elderly folks feeling abandoned and vulnerable, probably wondering if they should start knitting extra thick jumpers. These are the homes and the National Health Service they built on the back of crisis. This wasn't a story of tightening belts or making some of the poorest in our society pay. People simply do not understand. I do not understand how our new Labour government can cut the winter fuel allowance for pensioners and leave the super rich untouched. The cut was announced in September 2024, and if you think it was universally adored, think again. The benefit is now means tested, so only those on pension credit or other specific benefits will qualify. Translation: more than 10 million pensioners just got dropped like a bad habit. Critics are fuming, pointing out that plenty of elderly people don't meet the criteria for pension credit but are still struggling to afford heating. This is not what people voted for. It's the wrong decision. and it needs to be reversed. That's why pensioners across the country are furious, and who can blame them? After years of working, paying taxes, and contributing to society, they're now being left out in the cold, literally. Advocacy groups and political figures have labeled the policy as heartless, which is putting it mildly. It's one thing to have a rough patch as a leader, but Starmer is making sure to alienate a demographic that, let's be honest, doesn't forget when they've been wronged. Why does he think he has such an unprecedented fall in his popularity? Is it his attacks on the poor? Is it leaving children in poverty? Is it the reemergence of labor cronyism? Or is it because his austerity is even worse than the conservative variety? And Labour didn't campaign on this policy change, that's right, no warning, no heads up, just a big surprise for voters who feel thoroughly betrayed. Pensioners and older voters who have traditionally leaned towards Labour are now feeling like they got sold a lemon. Trust is crumbling, and Starmer's grand plans for a warm welcome in the next election are melting. It's a disastrous start for his government, because they came in with no ideas about what they were going to do apart from saying the Conservatives are evil. That was their only policy. But wait, there's more. If slashing pensioner benefits wasn't enough, Starmer's government has also decided to stick with the two-child benefit cap. You know, that lovely policy introduced by the Conservatives in 2017, which basically tells struggling families, sorry, but feeding your third kid is a luxury we can't afford to help with. Labour, the party that once promised to tackle child poverty, is now holding on to this cap, drawing even more outrage. I remember when they used to sit here, it's a long way up, and there's very few of them. So I don't think we need lectures on popularity, and the internal drama isn't any better. Anas Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader, publicly called for the cap to be scrapped, accusing it of pushing children into poverty. It's a total mess, with party members turning on each other and Starmer desperately trying to keep things from spiraling. The whole situation reeks of betrayal, especially when Labour insiders are whispering about how far the party strayed from its roots. Just 5 days before the general election in Scotland, on the front page of the Daily Record, Gordon Brown instructed voters to vote Labour to end child poverty. Yet last night, Labour MPs from Scotland were instructed to retain the two-child cap, which forces children into poverty. So, Prime Minister, what changed? Starmer's got a serious uphill battle if he wants to mend fences and actually do something concrete. The gap between all his lofty speeches and real actionable results is wider than ever, and if he doesn't figure it out soon, he might just find himself leading a party with no one left cheering him on.